My elder sister was the dowry maid to the noble consort. The noble consort suffered from a cold constitution, rendering her barren. My sister was forced to swallow fertility tonics to bear the emperor's favor and conceive in her master's stead. Upon the night she birthed the imperial prince, my sister suffered an endless hemorrhage. Her life hung by a mere thread. I thought the noble consort would at least recount her arduous toil and spare her life. Congratulations, Your Highness, the noble consort. Yet, amidst the resounding congratulations of the entire palace, the noble consort concealed my sister's dire condition. She deliberately withheld the imperial physicians, leaving her to bleed to death, committing the cruel deed of discarding the mother to claim the child. Your Highness, noble consort, I beseech you, save my sister! Before the Changxi Palace, I pleaded with the noble consort to spare my sister. Thy sister is but of lowly birth. To bear an imperial prince for our palace is a monumental blessing from the heavens. Our palace shall bestow upon her a fine coffin. This man-eating hierarchy, doth it truly regard human life as worthless as weeds? That very night, I buried my sister with my own hands. Using the entirety of my worldly possessions, I bartered for a new identity to enter the imperial harem selection. Henceforth, I too shall share the emperor's pillow, the justice that the noble consort owes my sister. I shall reclaim with mine own hands. Furthermore, I must safeguard the sole child my sister left behind in this realm. Before the palace of gathered elegance, I bowed my head, standing beneath the sun amongst the other maidens. The head eunuch cried out at the top of his lungs, "The Bai clan of Zhounan!
Bai Yu, enter the grand hall."
I drew a deep breath and stepped over that lofty threshold. The grand hall was suffused with the heavy scent of ambergris. The noble consort, Shen Hulan, sat upon the high seat, clad in a palace gown of pale crimson. Her countenance remained as haughty as it was a year prior. Emperor Zhao Xiong sat beside her, rolling 2 jade walnuts within his grasp. I bowed my head low and knelt alongside the maiden candidates before me. Your humble subject, Bai Yu, pays homage to His Majesty and Her Highness, the noble consort. Shen Hulan spoke not a word. Languidly, she idly toyed with her golden nail guards, her gaze sweeping across our gathering of newcomers. This one possesses a fair countenance. 'Tis a pity she is but a provincial wench, blind to the world. From this single utterance, I knew she recognized me not. A year prior, I was but a scrawny, uncomely lass. When I knelt to beg her, I was not even deemed worthy to cross the threshold of the Chang'e Palace. Naturally, she would not recall my visage. And my present guise is that of a daughter from a humble Jianan county. As fate would have it, that maiden eloped with a lover prior to the selection. Such treason is a capital offense that would doom her entire clan. Her father was seized by desperate panic. Thus, I presented myself in his threshold, offering to enter the palace in her stead, my sole condition being that he forged for me an impeccable, flawless new identity. I delivered the entire Bai clan from ruin, and in turn, they granted my desire to enter the inner court, a fair bargain, where each obtained what they sought.
先错了，兵的道道和的关景土土。
Naturally looks down upon a lowly provincial daughter such as I. Your Majesty, do observe, the candidates of this selection grow poorer with each passing year.
Zhao Xiu offered no reply. He merely stared, scrutinizing my visage for a fleeting moment.
I kept my head bowed low, tracing an imperceptible smile upon my lips. This day, I purposefully donned a gown of pink. It was the hue Shen Hulan favored most in her youth. Yet now, as her years have advanced, she wears it no longer. She hath forgotten, but Zhao Xiu hath not. Childhood companions they were, and the youthful Shen Hulan remains the pristine moonlight etched upon his heart. My elder sister once said, "My eyes bear the closest resemblance to the noble consort's, and thus I am destined for a fate as blessed as hers, to wed a most desirable lord." Yet I seek no desirable lord. I seek only to make Shen Hulan pay the price for her callousness, and to deliver Hanger from her side. So long as my purpose is fulfilled, what does that matter? If I borrow a fraction of her visage and glory, let her remain. After a long pause, Zhao Xing finally spoke. Since His Majesty favors her, then let her remain and be granted the rank of attendant. I knelt upon the floor and struck my head heavily in a deep kowtow. I thank His Majesty for his boundless grace. I thank her ladyship, the noble consort, for her boundless grace. As I took my leave from the great hall, the laughter of Shen Hulan echoed behind me. 'Tis evident she hath not yet realized that this shall prove the gravest misstep of a mortal life. Upon entering the palace, I was assigned to the most desolate of chambers. The servants attending me were indolent, which in turn afforded me the utmost liberty. Half a moon later, I had discerned the comings and goings of Zhao Shil. Each afternoon, he would venture to the imperial gardens to seek solace in its secluded corners. And thus, on this day, I changed into a delicate pink palace gown and dusted my sleeves with a specially crafted scented powder. It was a secret recipe imparted to me by Ajay in times past, crafted from sun-dried floral powder and sweet honey, possessing the virtue to draw butterflies. In a quiet corner of the imperial garden, I swayed most gently upon the swing. The painted butterflies, catching the sweet scent, flocked hither in great multitudes, dancing gracefully about the hem of my gown. It was at this very moment that the sound of approaching footsteps echoed nearby. I heard them, yet feigned ignorance of their approach, offering naught but a sweet smile to the fluttering creatures. "Fly night, come hither." I extended my hand, my fingertip grazing the delicate wing of a butterfly. The footsteps ceased. An unwavering gaze fixed itself steadfastly upon my back. Seizing the opportune moment, I feigned a sudden fright, tumbling from the swing. Just as I was about to strike the earth, a strong hand caught me firmly by the waist. I raised my head to meet the deep, fathomless gaze of Zhao Sheng. Within his eyes, beyond mere astonishment, lay a trace of ineffable longing for days long past. Your Imperial Majesty! In a flurry, I withdrew from his embrace and fell to my knees upon the grass. This lowly servant deserves 1,000 deaths for startling the imperial presence. Zhao Sheng's hand lingered in the air for a moment, ere he slowly withdrew it behind his back. "By what name are you called?" "To answer your majesty, thy servant is named Bai Yu." Bai Yu. A fine name. We have, in times past, seen another sway upon a swing, much as you do. Most beautiful. Yet, now, 'tis best left unsaid. Knowing my place, I inquired no further. When beauty withers, affection grows cold. 'Tis ever thus. 'Tis no wonder Shen Huan is in such haste to conceive a child, to secure her station. That very night, His Majesty Zhao Sheng chose my nameplate. Make ready, attendant Bai. I feigned composure to endure the palace's rites and rules. Yet His Majesty found great delight. On the morrow, at the first light of dawn, the imperial edict of promotion was decreed. I was elevated from promise Bai to attendant Bai. Word spread with great haste. The palace of Changji was swift to act. Trang Huolan dispatched a serving maid named Crane to deliver a gift. Crane tossed several bolts of unseasonable silk upon the table. Her tone drooped with contempt. Attendant Bai, Her Highness the noble consort has spoken. One of thy rustic birth ought to wear subdued garments. Do not parade about in such gaudy attire all the day long, lest thou bring disgrace upon the imperial visage.
Upon her departure,
I cast those bolts of silk into the depths of my chest and turned my steps toward the palace of cunning. Upon promotion, imperial concubines of the inner court were bound by palace decree to offer their gratitude at the Empress's chambers. Yet, beyond offering my thanks, I also sought to pledge my allegiance to Her Majesty. Pam Xu was born of a martial lineage, and with Shen Huolan, born of esteemed civil scholars. She hath ever been at odds. The enemy of mine enemy is... Within the palace upcoming, Empress Yu sat upon the seat of honor. Her gaze fell upon me, laden with scrutiny. With measured calm, I drew a ledger from my robes. Was proof of Shen Huolan covertly withholding the servants' monthly stipends, and evidence of her accepting bribes from officials of the outer court. My elder sister had served by her side for many years. None knew you these matters more clearly than she. Empress Xu turned the pages and perused them for a moment. Her expression shifted. First Attendant Bai, you possess no small measure of audacity. This is but the token of my sincerity, Your Majesty. With these in hand, it shall be sufficient to flay a layer of skin from the Shen clan. Why do you seek to assist this empress? You presently bask in His Majesty's profound favor. Should you but align yourself with the noble consort, your prospects would be boundless. I raised my head, meeting her gaze directly. For I bear a deep-seated enmity against her. Empress Xu let forth a cold sneer. Within this inner palace, there are multitudes who wish for her downfall. Speak.
What is it you seek?
Rank and station, or His Majesty's favor.
I desire only that she pay the price for her deeds, and that the eldest prince hang her, being trusted to the care of one who truly cherishes him.
Word was dispatched to General Xi's manor. Her Majesty's efficiency was most formidable.
On the morrow, General Xu and his loyalists launched their offensive,
Catching the Shen clan's faction entirely off guard.
Ultimately, Shen Huolan's father, Grand Tutor Shen, claimed culpability and resigned his post.
Retiring to his ancestral village. Only thus was the tempest quelled.
Shen Huolan was evidently driven mad with fury.
Upon this day, during the morning respects, she uncharacteristically charged first into Kunming Palace, hurling abuses at Empress Xu. "You of the Xu clan, you have gone much too far." I tranced upon this scene and had no choice but to bow my head and enter, offering my obeisance in strict accordance with decorum.
This concubine, Bai Yu, pays her respects to your Majesty the Empress,
And pays her respects to your highness, the noble consort.
圣荷兰地道所骂只是历层来历。
She merely snatched a teacup from the table and shattered it violently upon the floor.
Begone and kneel to the side!
Do you not see that this consort is greatly vexed? I held my tongue. I obediently withdrew to the corner. The Empress cast a glance at me, yet did not intervene. Whatever is the matter, sister? What has provoked such great ire?
sit forthwith and partake of some hot tea to soothe your wrath.
Spare me your hypocritical posturing, Xu Yin. Think not that I am unaware. It was you who dealt the treacherous blow in the Shen family's affairs.
This palace understands not such words from you, sister. The inner court must not interfere in matters of state.
Should you suffer any grievances, sister, you may well present them before His Majesty. You! Her chest heaved with fury.
She lifted the hot tea from the table and with a trembling hand splashed it upon my arm.
As the scalding tea splashed against my skin, a sharp, stinging pain washed over me. I instinctively recoiled my hand. Consider yourself fortunate.
A pity it did not splash upon that face of yours.
Relying on that bewitching, vixen-like visage, you actually dared to seduce His Majesty. Do you truly believe this consort is blind to your petty stratagems?
Noble consort. A tenant Bai is, after all, a legitimately chosen concubine of the inner court.
How can you inflict such wanton indignity upon her?
I see she has sworn allegiance to you. Small wonder, then, lacking beauty yourself.
You find a young and comely one to secure His Majesty's favor. To secure favor. Since you insist upon following the Empress, then follow Hong Yu shall. Mark my words, the both of you. Upon returning to my quarters, my maidservant Xiaotao beheld my injury, and her tears fell at once.
My lady, the noble consort is far too tyrannical.
This servant shall hasten to the imperial dispensary to fetch burn ointment for you.
Xiao Dao swiftly returned with the medicinal ointment and meticulously applied it to my wound.
Gazing upon that patch of reddened skin, I knew full well in my heart this was but the beginning. When Abentide arrived,
小少显微的隐皮油分子。
He hath frequented my chambers oft of late.
perchance, in my company, he recaptureth the vigor of his youth. To receive the Emperor, I did don a sheer pink palace gown and led Xiu Dao to the doors
To welcome his arrival, Zhao Shong approached and reached out to support me.
Rise quickly. We have said before, in private, there is no need for such excessive formalities.
His hand inadvertently brushed against my wound.
I drew in a sharp breath from the pain. It is not. Zhao Sheng perceived the anomaly.
His body suddenly stiffening.
What ails thee? It is nothing.
It is merely this concubine's old clumsiness. I heedlessly struck it whilst walking. Zhao Shen's countenance darkened in an instant.
Though struck it,
Since when doth a strike yield the blisters of a burn? I bowed my head low, the rims of mine eyes swiftly reddening, as tears welled and swirled within them.
yet I steadfastly refused to let them fall.
Your Majesty, I beseech thee, ask no more. It was this concubine who overturned her teacup.
Blame doth not lie with elder sister Shen.
The moment those words were uttered, Zhao Shen's gaze grew even more somber.
Shen Huai did this?
Was it Shen Hualan's doing? Nay, it was not her ladyship.
The noble consort?
Your Majesty,
Elder Dister Shen is presently vexed by matters of the Shen clan.
thou absolutely must not reprimand her over such a trifling matter. A trifling matter? We perceive she grows ever more lawless and insolent. Upon this night,
Then knew what transpired within the palace of Qinxi.
Was only known that Zhao Sheng returned to the Hall of Mental Cultivation in a great fury.
whilst Shen Huilian shattered every piece of Sheridan porcelain within her chambers.
in the latter half of the night, I tossed and turned, unable to find slumber. My heart remained ever anxious for Hanger.
The noble consort is intoxicated once more.
In these recent days, I have oft heard that because of the Shen clan's downfall, Shen Huilian
Set drink to excess and fly into a rage the livelong day.
and have no mind whatsoever to tend to the child. Evading the patrolling guards, I told quietly to the outside of the rear hall of the Changxi Palace.
Cease thy weeping. 'Tis exceedingly vexing.
From afar, I heard the sound of Hanger's cries, accompanied by the impatient rebukes of the wet nurse. My heart ached beyond measure. I pushed open the doors and entered. The wet nurse was greatly startled upon beholding me.
She hastily rose to her feet to offer obeisance.
I paid her no heed, walking swiftly to Hanger's side and gathering him into mine embrace.
Holding him close, I gently patted his back.
I coaxed him for a long while, ere he gradually fell into slumber. I touched his brow, and 'twas frightfully feverish. Bearing Hanger in mine arms, I sought out the imperial physician that very night.
On the afternoon of the morrow,
A commotion arose from the direction of the Changi Palace. Word spread that the first prince was suddenly stricken with an unceasing high fever,
suffering from both vomiting
and purging.
Where is the imperial physician?
It is not the imperial physician. Zhao Sheng had scarce descended from the morning court when he hurried thither in great haste. Following Empress Xu's palanquin, I too arrived at the Changji Palace. The hall was thrown into utter chaos,
With imperial physicians kneeling all across the floor.
Weeping so bitterly her visage was marred. Hi here, my sweet Hanger.
Do not frighten your imperial mother.
Hanger's small visage burned a crimson red. His eyes were shut tight as he whimpered ceaselessly.
His countenance as dark as a soot-stained cauldron. Noble consort, how have you tended to the imperial prince?
How could a perfectly healthy child fall so grievously ill all of a sudden? Your Majesty, this concubine has heard that the noble consort, vexed by matters of the outer court lately,
Has been venting her temper within her halls all day.
even the palace servants have punished at every turn. She pointed at me, standing behind her. When attendant Bai went to pay her respects yesterday, she was scalded and covered in wounds for no reason at all. The noble consort's mind is not focused upon the child. She thinks only of vying for power and profit all day long and how to torment the newcomers. With such a disposition, how can she properly raise an imperial prince?
Zhao Shen recalled the reddened wounds he had seen last night.
And looked again at the hopelessly frail Hanger before him.
Enough! The thorn festering in his heart finally erupted.
Shen Huang collapsed to the ground in terror.
Your Majesty, this concubine is wrongfully accused.
This concubine has not a true devotion for our imperial son.
Zhao Sheng ligoned, saucily,
Without a shred of pity in his eyes.
True devotion? Your true devotion?
Is to throw the Changwi Palace into utter turmoil? You cannot even tend properly to our own son.
Hear our decree. Noble consort Shen lacks the competence to raise a child.
And acts with overbearing arrogance. From this day forth, Hanger shall be transferred to the Empress's care.
Shen Dongma looked as though she had been struck by lightning.
Her entire body freezing in place. Your Majesty, no. You must not depart.
Like a madwoman, she sought to grasp the hem of Zhao Sheng's robes.
Only to be shunned by Zhao Sheng with a look of utter disgust.
Zhao Sheng 扶起似的
And strode grandly from the great hall. Empress Xu signaled the wet nurse to take up Henner. Before departing, she cast a glance upon me, her eyes bearing a trace of triumph. I stood within the shadows of the great hall, gazing upon Shen Huan. She slumped upon the ground as though her very soul had fled, muttering unto herself, "My hanger." I looked upon her wretched and disheveled state, yet my heart felt not a single ounce of joy. Only a heavy burden lingered. This is far from enough. The suffering mine elder sister endured, I shall make her repay it, piece by piece. I turned away and walked out of Changqiu Palace without a backward glance. Within Cunning Palace, Her Majesty the Empress cradled Henner, unable to bear parting with him. Attendant Bai, you have done exceedingly well. Do it all to share your Majesty's burdens, and for the good of Hanga. You have suffered grievances this time. This Empress shall speak to the Emperor on your behalf to elevate your rank. I thank your Majesty for your boundless grace. 3 days hence, an imperial edict descended, and I was elevated to the rank of concubine. As for Shen Hulan, it seemed she had finally seen reason. Before the imperial study, she staged a display of removing her hairpins to beg for forgiveness. A most pitiful sight, tender and touching to behold.
小省真好，遭分大斗。
And he bestowed his favors upon her for half a month straight. Half a month later came the Empress's longevity banquet.
我们是由后兰而来。
Her gaze brimming with arrogant triumph.
Swept across my face. And that of the Empress.
Coming to rest at last upon Hanger, cradled within the Empress's arms.
She curled her lips into a smile of assured victory. Midway through the banquet,
先我来，霸入的如防守。
and knelt rigidly in the center of the great hall. Your Majesty, this concubine wishes to denounce Her Majesty the Empress. The once boisterous hall descended into an instant, deathly silence.
Zhao Shao, who was lifting his goblet,
Paused with the vessel hovering at his lips, his brows furrowed into a deep knot. Noble consort, what madness possesses you? This concubine is not possessed by madness. My heart bleeds for Hanger. Hanger's illness is highly suspicious. Bereft of sleep and sustenance these past days, I have at last uncovered the truth. It is the Empress. To snatch Hanger away. She hesitated not to bribe the wet nurse to mistreat the imperial prince, seeming thereby to frame this concubine for failing in my duty of care. Upon these words, an uproar swept through the assembly. Empress Xu's countenance paled for a fleeting moment. She cast a subconscious glance toward me, a sliver of panic betraying itself in her eyes. I remained seated, my head bowed, my fingertips unhurriedly tracing the jade pendant at my waist.
谢户了。对于comprehend我幼儿前，
To falsely accuse the Empress is a crime punishable by death.
This concubine possesses a witness.
Imperial physician Zhang waits just beyond the hall.
He confessed to this concubine from his own lips. That concubine you once sought from him, a prescription for an infant's fever.
照相住了上地办了。
His gaze terrifyingly dark.
Summon Imperial Physician Zhang.
As Imperial physician Shao entered the great hall,
His entire body trembled violently.
Imperial physician Zhang, before His Majesty, you need only speak the absolute truth.
This palace shall see that justice is done for you. Speak. What exactly transpired? Imperial physician Zhang cast a glance at me and began with hesitation. May your Majesty see clearly. It was at this very moment that I feigned carelessness and overturned my wine cup, interrupting his words. Your Majesty, pardon my offense. This concubine has been clumsy.
Speak on. Your Majesty,
This subject deserves death 10,000 times over.
It was the noble consort. The noble consort instructed this subject.
What utter nonsense do you spout?
That is clearly not what you said but a moment ago. Imperial physician Zhang seemed to throw caution to the wind,
Pointing at Shen Huan as he cried out,
Your Majesty, Her Highness the noble consort coerced this subject into framing the Empress and concubine you at the birthday banquet.
Should this subject have refused, she threatened to slaughter my entire family.
You venomous slanderer! Hold your tongue!
Shen Huan, you still dare to behave with such insolence.
We were truly blind to believe you were merely willful. Never did we imagine you possessed such a venomous heart.
Your Majesty, it is not so. He speaks lies. It is Bai Yun. It is the Empress.
It is they who conspire against me.
Ah,
Enough. Imperial physician Zhang's character has ever been beyond reproach. Why would he falsely accuse you without cause? Instead, it is you who ceaselessly slanders the Empress and concubine Yu. Where is your proof? Your Majesty, this concubine's conscience is clear and fears not the wagging tongues of others.
Yet the noble consort publicly slanders this concubine, the mother of the nation.
At this, the Shu family faction in attendance immediately chimed in. We beseech your Majesty to seek justice for Her Grace the Empress. Meanwhile, the Shen family faction,
Already severely weakened following Grand Tutor Shen's resignation,
now found themselves bereft of justification. Furthermore, none dared to step forth and court ruin. Lady Shen is hereby stripped of the title of noble consort
and reduced to the status of a commoner. She is to be sent to the Jingzi courtyard forthwith.
and shall not step forth without imperial decree.
Bai Yun, you and those you are colluding in wickedness.
Think you that a good end awaits you?
lock him away!
The assembly's gazes rested subtly upon the Empress and myself.
Drag him away at once.
Let him reflect deeply upon his transgressions. You,
Very soon, those grating curses faded away.
Zoel, the avoid the disposition to remain.
departed without a backward glance. I remained seated at my place
And raised my cup to drain the newly poured wine.
This cup tasted exceedingly bitter. That night, I scarce expected Zhuo Shang to seek me out. He had partaken of wine and sat across from me,
Rambling.
Endlessly of his history with Shen Huolan.
He spoke of his past with Shen Huala.
saying that in her youth, she favored robes of pink. Though arrogant in temperament, she was not without her charms. Later, a trace of clarity returned to him, and a flash of disgust crossed his eyes.
He likely realized his loss of composure.
I did not expose his embarrassment, but instead gently poured him a cup of tea. My voice was soft and low. Your Majesty, let the past remain in the past. Seemingly touched by these words, he let out a sigh and sat for a long while before taking his leave. Thereafter, I was granted his exclusive favor for a full month. I was elevated to the rank of Consort Yu. When I presented myself at Cunning Palace to offer my gratitude, the Empress's gaze upon me had somewhat altered. Consort Yu, I have raised you to this stature,
Seeing that you are clever and astute,
and know your proper bounds. Do not follow the example of certain others, who, upon gaining favor, forget their own station. Your Majesty's teachings, this concubine shall engrave upon her heart that this subject possesses her current standing entirely by your Majesty's grace and guidance. I would never dare forget my roots. That is well. This Empress believes you. She offered a smile, yet the mirth did not reach her eyes. I performed a reverent kowtow, yet I knew she would not believe my words. In the dead of night that very day,
Whilst I was deep in slumber,
I was suddenly summoned to the Hall of Mental Cultivation.
Few lamps were lit within the hall.
The light was dim, seeping with a gloomy chill. She likely presumed that, with Shan Wulan now fallen, my usefulness as an accomplice had come to an end. Furthermore, knowing too many of her secrets, I remained a constant threat to her. Thus, she sought to eliminate me. Bai Yu, see for yourself. I knelt upon the frigid tiles and cast my eyes downward. There lay the census registry of the Bai clan of Jiangnan. Your Majesty, this concubine has verified the truth. This Bai Yu is by no means the true-born daughter of the Bai clan. The rightful daughter of the Bai family eloped with a lover half a year ago. In order to evade their rightful punishment, the Bai clan found this woman to take her place and enter the palace. Consort Yu, what immense audacity you possess. To deceive the sovereign is a crime punishable by the execution of 9 familial clans. I gazed upon the parchment on the ground, my heart undisturbed by the slightest ripple. Empress Yu believed she had seized my fatal weakness. Alas, she knew not that I feared death above all else. And thus, in my endeavors, I leave no loose ends. Your Majesty, this concubine knows not of what her grace the Empress speaks. Though this concubine is of lowly birth, I am yet a daughter of an honorable and unblemished household. Why must her grace falsely accuse this concubine thus? Falsely accuse? I fear you are unaware. The Empress hath gathered comprehensive evidence. There are witnesses who can testify to thy whereabouts ere thy entry into the palace. I performed a heavy kowtow, my voice growing ever more steadfast. Since your Majesty trusts not this concubine, and I beseech thee, summon the elder bays to the hall for a confrontation. This concubine is of their own flesh and blood. Surely they could not mistake me.
Your Majesty, this concubine hath already had that old
Couple brought outside the hall, awaiting your Majesty's judgment. Summon them. Joshua waved his hand. Summon. Moments later, the elder bays were brought forth. They were evidently terrified. Upon entering the hall, they collapsed onto the floor. I gazed upon them. That's so, my eyes bearing a trace of gratitude and entreaty.
Father, mother, pray tell us, Majesty.
Am I, or am I not, your true daughter? Old man Bai raised his head and cast a glance at me, then suddenly burst into mournful wailing. Ah, you're my own beloved daughter. He scrambled on his hands and knees, attempting to rush forth and grasp my sleeve, yet was firmly penned down by the imperial guards at his side. Mercy, your Majesty. This is indeed thy humble servant's daughter, Bai Yu. You wicked peasants, you must have been bribed by her. This Empress asks of thee,
What mark rests upon Bai Yu's left shoulder?
You beareth a red birthmark upon her left shoulder.
to a shaped as a plum blossom's petal. In her 6th year, when she fell into the well at the village's edge, a scar was left upon the back of her head. Surely, such things cannot be feigned. These very details. Ere I entered the palace, I did rehearse with them countless times.
Empress Yu's countenance darkened completely.
She likely never anticipated that I had woven even such details so flawlessly. Your Majesty, they must have conspired together. This concubine hath yet another witness. I tarried, not for her to finish, but seized her very words. Your Highness, since this concubine entered the palace, I have ever treated thee with the utmost reverence. With the fall of the Shen clan, thou become the sole victor within this inner court. Wilt thou now seek to ruthlessly exterminate us all? I wept, as though my breath would fail, my body swaying and frail, as though I might swoon at any given moment.
Aoshan Singbas, tapping the table, came to a halt.
He gazed upon Empress Ju, a flicker of suspicion arising in his eyes.
After Shen Hualan was deposed,
In both the outer court and the inner harem,
The Empress's clan held sole dominion. His favor toward me, aside from using me as a replacement, also held the intent of checking the Empress's power,
yet the Empress is in such haste to eliminate me.
which in turn hath awakened Zhao Sheng's suspicions.
Bai Yun, cease that confounding of the truth.
What this Empress investigates is thy identity.
What hath this to do with the Shen clan?
Your Highness, art thou afraid that this concubine knoweth too much? Or art thou afraid that this concubine hath claimed a share of thy favor?
If thou must force the crime of deceiving the sovereign upon this concubine
hath naught to say. I but beseech your majesty to discern the truth.
Enough. Jian Cheng arose abruptly,
interrupting my words. We see that since thou hast secured the Empress's throne, thou canst no longer tolerate others. The Lord and Lady Bai stand before us. The daughter they have acknowledged with their own lips. Can it be a falsehood?
Empress Yu grew deathly pale from fright
And hastily fell to her knees.
Your Majesty, this concubine did it, but for thy sake.
This concubine harboreth no selfish intent. No selfish intent? The Shen consort hath scarce been deposed.
and thou art already impatient to put consort Yu to her death.
Is this thy heralded virtue? I gazed upon Empress Yu's livid countenance, sighing softly within my heart. Does she believe I am of the same ilk as Shen Huala, one who acteth with naught but reckless folly?
I straightened my posture and wiped the tears from my visage.
Your Grace, why must thou act in such a manner?
Empress Yu wished to speak again,
Yet I granted her no such opportunity.
From my sleeve, I withdrew a charred bundle of cloth and laid it unfurled upon the ground. Your Majesty,
Her Grace is so desperate to eliminate this concubine because she feareth the truth of her harming the royal heirs shall be brought to light.
Empress Yu's visage instantly went ashen. Pointing at me, she cried out, Bai Yun, how darest thou utter such falsehoods before His Majesty? I paid no heed to her clamoring, but merely fixed my gaze upon Zhao Sheng's eyes. These medicinal dregs
Were intercepted by this concubine from the Kinning Palace.
For many years, Her Grace,
Then covertly administered cold-natured tonics onto the other concubines.
the Haonan from bearing child.
A tempest brewed within his gaze. The matter of heirs was his singular, untouchable wrath.
Perceiving the tides turn ill, Empress Yu
fell heavily to her knees at Zhao Sheng's feet.
Reaching forth to grasp his dragon robes.
Your Majesty, heed not this drivel. This person's identity is clearly suspect.
And in his death throes, he seeks to drag thy servant down with him.
Ah,
I shrank not back.
But kowtowed heavily before Zhao Sheng.
If your Majesty harbors doubt,
Thou mayest summon a trusted imperial physician to examine it.
his eyes remained fixed upon that mound of medicinal dregs. Veins bulged upon the back of his hands. Summon head physician Chen. A moment hence, head physician Chen entered the great hall, trembling in dread. He knelt before the medicinal dregs and sifted through them, his brow furrowing ever deeper. Xiao Shou fixed his gaze upon him. Speak, what is contained within? Chen swallowed hard, his voice trembling beyond measure. To answer, Your Majesty,
These dregs contain herbs of a most extreme cold nature. Their potency is subtle, yet enduring.
should a woman ingest them over a prolonged period, she shall suffer harm, rendering it nigh impossible for her to conceive. A deathly silence descended upon the great hall. The greatest sorrow of Zhao Sheng's life was the dearth of his heirs. Despite a harem filled with concubines, he had but one child, Hanger. For this, he had borne the scorn and reproach of the realm. Yet now,
He had discovered that all this was the doing of his wedded wife.
How could he not be consumed by wrath? Zhao Sheng slammed his hand fiercely upon the dragon desk. The resounding crack caused the very hall to tremble. Flying splinters grazed Empress Shu's shoe.
Yet she heeded not the pain,
frantically seeking to crawl forward and grasp Ba Shou. Your Majesty, I am unjustly accused. Surely court physician Chen and his violent wench have conspired to bring ruin upon me. Zhao Shou cast upon her a glance of utter disgust.
and turned aside to evade her grasp.
Unjustly accused? The witnesses and evidence are irrefutable.
Yet thou darest claim innocence?
Guards,
Strip the Empress of her phoenix seal.
escort her to the Jinxi Pavilion at once.
Without our imperial decree, let none be permitted to visit her.
Several guards strode swiftly into the great hall, flanking Empress Xi and hoisting her by the arms.
Pempis Shu struggled with mad desperation.
Wailing and shrieking most piteously.
Her wretched cries gradually faded into the distance.
The Lord and Lady Bai were likewise taken away.
A deathly silence fell once more upon the great hall. I remained kneeling where I was,
My brow pressed against the frigid floor tiles.
Tao Xin stood upon the dais,
His chest heaving violently. It was clear his wrath had not yet abated. After a long while, he finally cast his gaze down upon me.
Bai Yu, hast thou what else to say?
Bai Yu.
Hast thou what else to say for thyself?
I slowly lifted my head.
though outward I appeared composed.
My nails, hidden within my sleeves, were nearly snapped from how fiercely I clenched my hands, for the words I was about to utter would be a truly perilous wager. I drew a deep breath and slowly spoke amidst the deathly silence. Your Majesty, thy servant hath indeed been deceitful.
Zhao Sheng's gaze darkened at once.
His hand involuntarily pressed upon the edge of the dragon desk.
I continued to speak, my voice bearing a trace of tears. Thy servant is no daughter of the Bai clan, but rather, from years past,
The one who bore the prince for the noble consort, that palace maid's own blood sister. I kowtowed once more,
my voice ringing clear. For the crime of deceiving the sovereign,
thy servant willingly accepts death.
I beg only that your Majesty, for the sake of Hanger,
Bestow upon thy servant an intact corpse.
the fury upon Zhao Sheng's countenance
Gradually extinguished.
in that moment. He gazed upon me, his eyes fraught with complexity.
Toward my elder sister, in years past, he harbored deep guilt. And as for hunger,
He treasured him above all else.
Whilst I am,
In all this world, the sole soul who truly cherisheth Hanger.
regarding the matter of thy elder sister,
it is we who have wronged her.
From this day forth, thou shalt be our imperial noble consort. Hanger shall be given unto thy care by proper and rightful title. I yielded and leaned into his embrace, breathing in the faint scent of incense upon him.
This fragrance brought my elder sister to mind.
And mine eyes could not help but redden. Looking past Zhao Sheng's shoulder, I gazed upon the dragon throne in the center of the great hall. Imperial, noble consort. This was already the greatest outcome
I could secure for my elder sister and Hanger.
Upon ascending as imperial noble consort, my first endeavor was to devote myself wholly to raising hair. Under my careful tending, his constitution gradually grew stronger, and his disposition grew ever more cheerful. He cleaved to my side day after day, earnestly calling out for his mother consort. Beholding his healthy and joyous countenance, I felt all my toil had been well rewarded. In his early years, Zhao Sheng had surrendered himself to wine and women, and long consumed the elixirs presented by alchemists, leaving his vitality but a shadow of its former self. 3 years slipped away in but a fleeting moment, though new beauties were ushered into the inner court,
矫秀食色，甚得地官。
and he seldom bestowed his favor upon them. In these 3 years, not a single infant was born within the inner palace.
Amidst a torrential downpour in late autumn,
Jia Sheng's health utterly collapsed.
He fell upon his bed within the hall of mental cultivation, never to rise again. Beneath the imperial yellow brocade quilt, his form was wasted away to mere bones, clinging to but a single thread of breath.
Hey you have come.
I scooped a spoonful of medicinal broth, blew upon it gently, and brought it to his lips. Your Majesty, it is time for your medicine. His cracked lips parted slightly as he swallowed with great exertion. Draughts of the dark defuction trickled down the corner of his mouth, staining the imperial yellow pillow slip black. I took the silken kerchief and wiped it away for him.
My movements exceedingly gentle.
Once your Majesty has taken this medicine, your royal person shall feel much relieved. Zhao Song fixed his gaze upon me. He sought to reach out and grasp my hand,
Yet lacked the strength to do so.
Within this palace, only you are true to me. Those women think only of imperial favor and of their own clans. I lowered my head, concealing the emotions in the depths of my eyes. Thy servant seeks naught else, but that your Majesty may live 100 years, and that Hanga may grow up in peace and safety. Zhao Song gasped ever more violently. He stared fixedly at the painted ceiling of the grand hall. I fear my time hath truly come to an end. An hour later, the hall of mental cultivation was filled with kneeling figures.
Zhao Shua motioned to the elder eunuch at his side.
The old eunuch tremblingly unrolled an imperial edict.
In a shrill voice, he proclaimed the decree.
By the grace of heaven, the emperor decrees, the imperial prince Henger is wise,
Farsighted, and of keen discernment. He is hereby ordained as the crown prince
to inherit the great lineage. The imperial noble consort of the Bai clan, being of virtuous and diligent nature, it hereby elevated to Empress Dowager. She shall govern as regent alongside the 3 grand counselors until the new emperor comes of age, whereupon power shall be returned to him. The grand hall fell into a deathly silence once more. Fao Shou drew the heirloom seal of the realm from beneath his pillow
And placed it into my hands.
you, Henger and this empire, and entrust them unto thee. Zhao Shengkan slowly fell. His head slumped to one side, and the light within his eyes faded utterly. I looked down at the jade seal in my lap and clasped it tightly within my grasp. The death knell began to toll above the imperial city. At that very moment, tidings arrived from the court of quiet reflection. The Lady Shen and the Lady Xu had successively succumbed to illness. Leading Henger by the hand, I walked step by step toward the Hall of Supreme Harmony.
Thy subjects pay respects to the emperor. Long live the emperor. 10,000 years. 10,000 of 10,000 years. We pay respects to the Empress Dowager.
1,000 years. 1,000 of 1,000 years to the Empress Dowager. In the end, it was Henger who sat upon this dragon throne,
And this boundless empire?
shall henceforth belong to us, mother and son. Elder sister, I have at last protected Henger. You may now rest in peace. Henceforth, I shall raise him with the utmost care
And guide him to become a benevolent sovereign.
Never again shall the tragedies of this inner palace be repeated.